laptop and a smile. We bridge the language gap. No matter where you're from, we've got your English map. From Kingston to Tokyo, Kingston to Beijing, we'll guide you through the words. We'll make your heart sing. One love, one language. We're dancing to the beat, teaching English online. We can't be discreet. From verbs to nouns, from idioms to rhyme. Learning English is a journey, it's a global good time. I'm an online teacher getting students worldwide. With my reggae rhythm, gonna take them for a ride. From the Caribbean beaches to the African plains. Teaching English online, breaking language chains. Teaching English online, come on and join the class. We're gonna have a blast. Make the good times last. With the reggae rhythm pumping and the vibe feeling right. Teaching English online. Spread the law online. Let's spread the law time. Breaking language rampant and the vibe feeling right. Teaching English online. Let's spread the love tonight. Spread the love tonight. Let's spread the love tonight. The heart sing. One love, one language. We're dancing to the beat, teaching English online. We can't be discreet. From verbs to nouns, from idioms to rhyme. Learning English is a journey, it's a global good time. I'm an online teacher getting students worldwide. With my reggae rhythm, gonna take them for a ride. From the Caribbean beaches to the African plains. Teaching English online, breaking language chains. Teaching English online, breaking language chains. Yes. Teaching English online. Respect the lump sum on, join the class. We're gonna have a blast. Make the good times last. With the reggae rhythm pumping and the vibe feeling right. Teaching English online. Let's spread the love tonight. Here to lead the way, blending knowledge with tech today. And with Michael B. Horn, we're reaching new heights. Our expert guide on these learning lights. Blended learning, flexible and free. Personalized paths for you and me. Thanks to Michael guiding the way. Classrooms evolve each and every day. Strong, but Michael's wisdom leads us along. With blended learning, students thrive. Engaged and active minds come alive. Blended learning, flexible and free. Personalized paths for you and me. Thanks to Michael guiding the way. Classrooms evolve each and every day.
One is the ESL live stream. Before we start live, I'm really it's a special day talking about tech is change, how technology is changing our classroom. Right, we're gonna have, of course, two my co-host, and Michael B. Horn is gonna be with us tonight. They're already live. That we're going to be talking about blended, and you know that Michael is graduated from Harvard University has a huge name in industry when it comes to portal, and it's going to be really awesome. Let's roll the screen. Here we go.
Hey,
Stu. How are
how's it
you
going?
doing?
Really good, thank you. Really good, thank you. The nights are starting to draw in here in England. It's getting like, dark by 4:30, and it's kind of already looking a bit grim out there. But yeah, going well. How are you going, Mike?
And when people are go to bed, middle of the day, and tonight I was Michael really. I mean, because time on a Sunday, and he's here today. I get super mid him.
Yeah. This is going to be a really big one for the guys or the teachers out there that follow us. This is a real treat because Michael is a real expert in this area, and he's going to really tell us all lots of really enlightening stuff and some practical stuff. I hope that we can actually use in our classes. So looking forward to this one.
We can say better. Great. Let's welcome B. Horn.
And now, let's welcome today's guest, Michael B. Horn.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, Cole.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. No,
Yeah, first, thank you. But we might have some time differences in the microphone, but it's gonna be okay. Because the more for you, and I'd like to so much for giving us the honor to join on the so much, Michael, and welcome.
you bet. It's my pleasure to be with you both. I know we are spanning the globe, I guess, this morning, so it's a heck of a lot of fun to get to talk education and how we can improve it together.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you, Stuart Allen. We both, for the story, we used to be for a good 20 plus years, but now he's back in England. I'm still in China, teaching English and teaching French as well in an international school. But Stu is actually, you are, Stuart, you are still, you're a CIPD level 5 advanced diploma strategic learning development, because well is thinking in learnings altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I've been interested in technology within teaching for like my whole career, and it's getting so exciting right now. The what what teachers have at their disposal for teaching is just unprecedented, and it's getting more and more exciting. Literally, as months go by, new things are developing, new ideas are coming out. The technology is just exponentially improving, and it's an exciting time. So, I'm really looking forward to having you on, Michael.
Thank you so much. I hopefully with those expectations, I don't disappoint, but I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
All right, so just let's start. Can you kind of sort of introduce yourself very your career? Why did you choose? How you came to choosing blended learning as an?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got my start in education specifically in 2006. I had been a student at the Harvard Business School. So I went not thinking I was going to do education, but I wanted to do something public service minded. And while there, I took Clay Christensen's class. Clay Christensen, for those that know, father of disruptive innovation theory. And he had this opportunity to write a book with him, applying his ideas to how could schools innovate. And that became Disrupting Class. I co-authored it with him. I founded the Clayton Christensen Institute, a nonprofit think tank. And the big idea of Disrupting Class was that the way most schools today work and function have nothing to do with optimizing kids' learning, that they are all built around an efficiency factory-based model where we take students in, batch them, send them out the other side. And so to answer your question and make a long story shorter, technology, we believed, used in different models, right, could personalize learning. But it became clear for K through 12 students, yes, some of them will be virtual, but most families want them to go somewhere. They want to have a social experience. The kids want that as well. And so how do you really blend the digital learning into classrooms in a thoughtful way to not just continue the lockstep instruction, but to really personalize it so every child can learn and master at the pace and path that makes sense for them?
Very interesting, and your choice of disrupting the classroom, that's quite powerful language. So, what was the thought process behind calling it that?
Yeah, it was on multiple levels, right? And you're astute to pick up on it. Obviously, disruptive innovation was what Clay had been known for. But what we quickly realized was disrupting schools, at least in the United States and frankly, most developed countries with mandatory education, wasn't going to be possible, right? Because you have schools, everyone attends them, they feel free to most families. And so as a result, disruptive innovation is where the alternative is nothing at all, where you can offer a cheaper product or service. That's not what we're talking about when it comes to education, right? And so what we said though is, are there ways to disrupt the classroom structure itself, which we sort of make synonymous with this batch processing, right? And so could you instead move to a design really of learner studios, if you will, where individuals come in, they are learning online at the path and pace that makes sense for them.
Mm,
They're getting to group up in projects with different, groupings of students, different small groups with the teacher for whatever the, purpose might be, and getting to learn in that way. And so we really said, how do we overthrow the classroom structure within
mm.
schools that we think is holding ourselves back so much? And so that was the origin of the title. I guess the third one was, socioeconomic class is often very predictive of how students do in schools. And so I guess the question, right, would be, can we overthrow that predictability, right? If we make schools that are really built around each and every child's learning, maybe we can make class a little less predictive of how people do.
Right. Thank you. Michael, I know that you have even coming up. This is a book, right? About this book.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's right behind me over there on my shoulder. Job moves, and wow, you just pulled it up there. 9 steps for making progress in your career. So this might feel different from K through 12 education in schools, but what I would say is, as you know, I've been in the world of education. What's clear is that K through 12 schools are often dependent on college and the career pathways available to learners. And if I'm serious about helping every individual be able to build their passions and fulfill their potential, you have to think about the job market as well. And so this book is sort of a what color is your parachute for the modern age. We worked with over 1,000 individuals, tracking why they switched jobs. And then we built a process that we've tested with actually multiple cohorts of individuals to actually help them change more successfully, basically saying, I think we can build a design process. So it's a super practical book of how do you actually better switch jobs so that you're actually making progress in your career. And I think it has real adaptability to K through 12 classrooms as well. It's not written that way, but increasingly I've become of the view that our middle and high school students, secondary students, right, in particular, need much more exposure to the workforce so that they can make decisions about their own pathways and so forth. And frankly, with the pace of AI changing work, I think more experiential learning to keep up with it is going to be more and more important.
That's so cool. The thing with education, what is it for? What is education? Who is it for? And these are really deep questions. And quite often, like you say, students get towards kind of graduating high school and they really don't know the direction that they need to go in. And oftentimes they haven't developed the skills within schools to prepare them adequately for the workforce, So that sounds very, very cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think it's interesting, right? Because in our fights and debates over what is school for, we often jump into the it's either this or that. And I think we have to be honest, this is an and conversation, right? Like we are trying to develop individuals so that they can lead prepared, successful lives as adults. That means workforce, and that means some of those things. And if we develop individuals to be capable and critical thinkers, we'll also have a better society. So I think sometimes we pit these things against each other, and at least in my small brain, they tend to swim together more often than we like to admit.
Yeah. So no, definitely right. Definitely right. They really do complement each other. Absolutely. And it's so important as well about the community as well, like developing good community. So going back in time, how did you kind of start your kind of love affair with blended learning and technology within education?
Yeah, so I was just blown away, and I'll do the blended learning specifically, maybe, and then if we want to go deeper into the technology, we can. But the blended learning specifically, so we wrote Disrupting Class. It came out in 2008, and we knew it was an incomplete thought. And so the team that I started building at the Christensen Institute and I started spending more and more time in schools that were using technology in different ways. And what we soon realized was that some of them, not all of them, there's a lot of bad uses of technology in education. We should say that. But some of them were doing really cool things where the students were coming in and saying, I'm going to set my goal for what I'm going to learn today. I'm going to show you how I'm going to go realize that. Like they had so much agency and executive function skills, and they were so driven. And they were like, and then I would see them like, go up to the teacher and say, hey, can I show you how I just did this thing? Right. And so that they show it, and the teacher would say, not quite, Michael, you need a little bit more work in this, and give some pointers. And then the student, rather than being crushed, would just say, oh, got it. Like super excited, go back, work harder. And then, 20 minutes later, pop back up and show them. Right. And so I started seeing this in many schools one after another. And all of a sudden, it becomes clear to you, right, that the rate limiter of lessons doesn't have to be the one teacher with 30 some odd students in the classroom.
Yeah.
That actually the technology can do a lot of that work. And then the kids start owning their own learning, and they only move on once they achieve mastery, right? And then I'll tell you the other part of it that really clinched it for me was we were in one of these schools in Silicon Valley, and I saw this kid, just going through that sequence I'd said, and they were sort of struggling. And another kid across the room came over and said, I was just wrestling with that same thing last week. Let me show you how I did it. And taught the other kid, like a 5-minute lesson, maybe, like how they did it. And the teacher wasn't like, go back to your seat, or, this was like a beautiful moment of this, kid showing real mastery, because they could now teach it. Like once you can teach something, you're really a master of it. Right. And this other child not being put down at all, just like, oh, thank you. Right. And, afterwards I asked the teacher, and she was like, well, 2 weeks ago it was the other way. Like that kid, the other kid was tutoring the other kid, right, on something different. And I thought it was so beautiful how you built social interactions, right? This was not isolated learning where people were clicking away, by themselves. It was deeply social, but a positive social interaction. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like, I remember being in grade 7 specifically, and like my social interactions were like pencil fighting with the other kids in the back of the room and trying to make sure the teacher didn't see me. Like this was a really beautiful educational moment that I realized was only possible with technology being directly in the hands of the kids themselves, and them having agency and autonomy around it.
Yeah, that's the big thing, giving students the autonomy to be able to make their own decisions in their learning and decide upon the pathway, guided with the teacher, of course, but collaborating as well, like working together as a team to to achieve tasks. I think it can be quite intimidating, can't it, for lots of teachers? Like, we were talking about this last week on the live stream. It's like, where do we start? Let's say you're a teacher that you've never really used technology. You might have an interactive whiteboard. That's about it. You might have video functions for YouTube videos or whatever. But how can you take the next step? Take it further.
Yeah. By the way, just to first confirm, I do think it is scary, right, for teachers, because one of the things, so they're worried about the technology, but even more so, I think they're worried about, wait a minute, you're telling me all 30 kids are going to be in different places. Like that's chaos. How do I manage it? And what about like the kids who are laggards? Like, what do I do? Like, how am I going to keep them up? That sounds really hard. Right. And it's almost like the, chaos theory, right? Like the ping pong balls going everywhere. And so I think it feels really scary. I think honestly, the easiest way to get into this is the flipped classroom model, where you literally say, you said it, like maybe I'm using some YouTube videos, maybe I've created some videos myself, maybe I've used a free resource like Khan Academy or something like that. And say, okay, the next lesson you're going to do at home. And when you come into the classroom, we're actually going to do what used to be the homework, right? And, some of you will go right through the problem sets, or you'll go right through the project, or whatever it is, right? And that's fine. And then after a couple weeks of this, Stuart, what I think happens is teachers will naturally start to say, oh gosh, like Stuart's ready to just run through this material. Maybe I let him do 3 videos tomorrow night, because like he's clearly showing he's got it. Michael over here needs a little bit more work. So I'm going to spend, maybe a little extra time with him in class just to make sure he doesn't fall behind too far, right? And so all of a sudden, through baby steps, you can start not just using technology, but also starting to personalize over time, the different pathways for kids. And it's baby steps. I think of flipped classroom, sometimes people dismiss it. To me, it's sort of a gateway drug into this world.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful way to just get started.
Yeah. We were talking about flip learning last week, and it's the perfect way to get going. And I love that analogy, like the gateway drug to start off everything, because you can really personalize it. You can make I remember a few years ago, I made a video on fair trade farming and fair trade with community, like kind of underprivileged communities and stuff. So I made a video myself. The students went home and watched the video, and then on the Monday we came in and kind of began the topic of fair trade. So we kind of flipping the classroom, and it gives you the confidence. It works. You saw it working. I'm going to try it again. I love it.
I got a question. We have a lot of people in the world here on Mike's Home ESL, and so what advice would you give to educators with resources or devices, but who still want to incorporate learning in their classes?
Yeah, great question, Mike. And we see this all the time. I will tell you, some of the best blended learning models that I've ever seen actually only have a device, like one device for every 3 or 4 kids. And you can do a great job of it. So I'll give you one example, and maybe this will resonate. And then we can go deeper if you want. But for schools, or frankly families, right, with limited means, where that's the case, what you can do is set up a station rotation in your classroom. And for elementary school teachers out there, in some ways, this is, a lot of them maybe already teach with centers-based models in their classroom. But essentially, one of those centers or one of those stations is the one with the few computers in the class, right? And so you divide your class. Say I'm making this up, but let's say you got 30 kids. Let's say you're going to do 4 stations, right? So let's say we've got groups of 7 or 8 kids or so, right, roughly, and maybe 7 or 8 kids are in small group instruction with the teacher. Okay, they're getting the lesson of the day. They're getting maybe particular reading or English work, right? You said it was ESL, so we're getting some dedicated time with the teacher, and that's really important because when it's a 7-to-1 or 8-to-1 student-teacher ratio, kids are going to get a lot more talk time. And the only way to really learn a language is to listen and talk. That exchange is really important. So so we're creating that station. A second station, group of students who are maybe doing offline project together about, cultural application, right, of in an English speaking country, perhaps, right, of something. And then we've got a third station. Maybe they're doing the exact same thing. So we've got 2 projects sort of going, or maybe that third one is a worksheet or something like that. And then the fourth station is those computers. And there, you could be working, you're going to work on some sort of English language program. These days, it might be mobile devices. You might be doing Duolingo, right? Back in the day when I was studying this, it was Rosetta Stone a lot of times that you would see on computers. There's disruption, things change in that market as well. But maybe it's Babbel. Like there's a lot of programs, right, you could use. And so kids are getting personalized lessons at that station. And then the cool thing for the teacher is at the end of the class period, you're looking at the data and you're saying, okay, Michael's still struggling with verbs, right, in this context, but so are 6 other kids. And so tomorrow, the small group on the rug with me, when we're having talk time, I'm going to take all those kids who are struggling with that same thing so that we can really support them together. And so that might be an easy way to do it. I'll give you one other example, because I do a lot of work with an organization called Imagine Worldwide. And we are providing self-directed learning through tablets in countries like Malawi, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, on the African continent. And incredible results, by the way, teaching basic literacy and maths. And these are classrooms or schools where the ratio is 150 students to one teacher, 200 students to one teacher, right? And there, what we've had to do is obviously provide tablets for the kids, but they're powered by solar power, and they charge overnight. So the bank takes in the solar power during the day and then charges the devices overnight. And all of the software is offline. So 1 Billion is a nonprofit out of England, and that's who provides the software for learning how to become literate and learning maths. They have programs in Chichewan, English, Swahili, French, and kids learn how to, speak and read through these programs. Incredibly cool. It's all offline, and so we're actually able to operate at less than $7 per kid per year. So that all of a sudden becomes something that a lot of governments, right, can help fund, for example. So just a couple ideas of how this could work.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've seen a lot of research done by in-service teachers and for literacy, using tablets for literacy, and the results are there. It's beyond dispute that using tablets for your classes for early literacy, is well founded. And that sounds so cool. Everything's sustainable. You've got you can charge up the bank's solar power. Everything's offline, so the school doesn't need to have Wi-Fi the whole time. $7 per student per year. That's very doable, I think. Given if they're getting the funding.
Yeah. I'll give you a data point, right? Malawi spends roughly $56 per kid per year on all school. So, look, $7 is, or $6, whatever it is, that's a sizable chunk of the budget, but it's still less, it's not 80% of the budget. So we still have 80% of the funds to really go toward the most important resource, which are those teachers still. And human capital, right, in all schools takes up the lion's share of the budget. This is really helping us with the curricular expense, right, for kids, and we're making it accessible to everyone at that sort of price point. So I think that's one way you can really tackle it. And like I said, the other way is you don't need a device for every kid. And you can create these models that are super practical and allow kids to rotate through, and giving teachers a lot of data and feedback that they can use to improve their own instruction with the kids.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like if like the stations you're creating, it's so good for differentiated learning. And it's a great example if you do have limited resources. Maybe you do have a classroom of 30 kids, but you've only got 5 laptops. Then just make all of those, or not laptops, your tablets. Make all of your tablets be on that station, and then other stations could be a writing task, could be a worksheet, could be like a listening activity that you've created. Circle time. You might get the students down on the rug to work out their differences and stuff. And you mentioned a good point there about assessment. So, and then getting data and then working with the data to understand how you can, what you can do with that. So how might you use technology for assessment?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most exciting things, right? Because we can get real-time interactive results from technology to actually figure out how students are doing. And ideally, I think we still need help in this area from the software makers, but ideally, we're getting real-time dashboards for teachers that inform them, how kids are doing. So I'll give you a few examples. Obviously, there's the, less interesting multiple choice stuff that comes up in a lot of the platforms right now. I would say that has a certain use case, right? The first time someone goes through it, if they show confusion, I think that is an important data point. When they go through it the fifth time, I think it's a less helpful data point because you could do a lot of guessing, right, to get to the right answer. But that first data point, I think, can be really helpful for teachers. And again, as opposed to homework, right? Like in the old days with worksheets that you had to grade, you get it immediately. The second thing that I think technology does really well on that is there is some objectivity, right? In the sense of, and I see it. Look, my kids are both in Montessori schools. I have twins. They're in fourth grade, so they're personalized, mastery based, all the things that I like without the digital technology. Though it's largely through the manipulatives, which are quite expensive.
Yeah, tactile materials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And so it's very cool. Like what Maria Montessori built, 100 years ahead of its time. It's amazing. But what's interesting, and I love their teachers, but when they were in lower elementary, I could see that they were getting evaluated differently because I knew their abilities as well, right? And then I would get the progress reports, and one kid would be excelling in this, and the other kid would be struggling in it. And I was like, I know it's actually the other way around on that particular subject. And so you all just have different standards, grading scales, right? That you're using. It's not consistent. And so the cool thing I think about technology, or being able to use technology even to get a third party teacher in there, right, virtually, to be able to give feedback, is you sort of take some of that bias, right, out of it. Because teachers, I think, in my experience, I know it's true for me in my classroom when I teach at Harvard, I want every student to succeed. I don't really want to grade and judge them. That's not what gives me personal energy. So that's a part of this equation. The other thing that I think is really cool that's starting to happen, and I'm curious if you all are seeing it, but with the artificial intelligence now increasingly coming in as a tool for teachers, the ability, I think, to assess project-based work. Yeah, the ability to assess project-based work and real simulations and real, like, in context learning, I think is going to be really freaking cool. And so we're going to get to a level of richness and feedback, I think, that could be much more both engaging for the students, but also informative, right, for the teachers, rather than just say like a multiple choice check, right? It can be, I mean, the AI now already can quickly read my essay and say, Michael consistently struggles to communicate this kind of an idea, right? And so, okay, like, what do we do to help him with that? Michael consistently struggles with these grammatical mistakes. Okay, what do we do to help him with that, right? Like, that stuff the AI can do today. I think where it's going to go as it starts to assess work in context is going to become really, really interesting over the next few years.
That was my question. I had a question because on the platform last week we've been talking about learning, and of course it'll always come right. And so I want to have future yourself involving with the rapid growth of AI tools and learning technologies.
Yeah, it's a
good future. The answer, you know what's going on, because for us teacher, you know what we are international. We have students on tablets. We work. They have laptops, so they start to have the tea, and sometimes we can see that they're doing their essay. So it's, very concerned about that AI because some really care. Well, I feel like everybody don't really know how to work with it.
Yeah. It's such a good question.
Use it because it's
such a good question. And I think like there's many different levels, right, of the AI that I think are going to impact. So maybe I'll just talk through my schematic. I think the first one is, the concerns. Let's talk about that first, right? And I think the concern around cheating or like doing work that is not in fact your own as a student, it's real. And I think, it's probably an emphasis on more in-class work without computers, right? As a way to check, is this really what the student can, do? I will tell you, one of my favorite learning models in the world is this virtual school, Virtual Learning Academy Charter School of New Hampshire. They go by VLACS, VLACS. And they have 4 different ways for a student to show mastery of anything. And one of them is simply an oral 5-minute conversation with the teacher. And I kind of think that's the best of them all because, I can fool you in a lot of different mediums, but at least what I see is within about 5 minutes, probably actually honestly within about 45 seconds, most teachers know, does Michael really know what he's talking here, or is he sort of, BSing us, right? And so I think it's a great way just to check on the AI and say, okay, there's a discrepancy here. What does that mean? So this is definitely an issue, but I think it's solvable, I guess is what I would say. I see a lot of teachers going to in-class essays without computers and things like that. That could be part of this as well. I think the more interesting questions get to how does it help us, right? Not how does it hurt us, but how does it help us? And there, I think the evidence is mixed so far. I think what seems clear to me is that AI could be a really cool tool for teachers to use. So it can allow me to come up with many alternative explanations to reach a student, perhaps, who's just struggling with the way I'm, trying to teach a particular concept or vocabulary word or whatever. Like they just don't have the same background knowledge, and they can help me, very quickly with that, right? So I think teacher tools are probably the most no-brainer because something we know about the artificial intelligence, or at least the large language models of them right now, is because they're predictive engines, they make mistakes all the time. And so they're best in the hands of experts to be able to say, oh, I know that's a mistake, that's not right, I'm going to correct it, right? And so I think in the hands of teachers, it's a very powerful tool. I think that speaks to the assessment we were just talking about, as well as like another branch of this. Like, how do teachers use this as another tool in assessment, not the end all be all, but just one more thing in their arsenal? Because to me, again, one of the big things that makes blended learning so exciting is it creates actionable feedback at the point of learning that students can do something with. If it doesn't do that, to me, like, it's actually, the technology is a little bit worthless, right? It's that shortening that cycle of feedback and giving students honest feedback of like, hey, this is what you need to do to be able to really master it. You're not there yet, right? And not giving it to them 2 weeks later, but right at the point in time, so they can do something about it.
Yeah.
So the other part of AI that I think, so that's the teacher facing, then there's the student facing piece of this. And I think there's 2 branches of that. One is you referenced it, adaptive learning or tutoring with AI technologies. And I think the answer is going to be really checkered there for the, like, uneven for the time, for the foreseeable future there, if I'm being super honest. Because again, the AI makes mistakes. And while that's fine with Amazon when they're recommending me a product, it's not fine for the AI to make a mistake repeatedly with kids, because that can really undermine self-efficacy, their sense of their ability to make progress. It can create misconceptions, right? Like, it has huge, I think, negative impacts is what I would say. And so I'm a little wary of like, oh, AI tutor for students is like going to take over the world. Cause I love Conmigo. It was amazing. My kid has used it to learn programming, and it makes a lot of mistakes, and I'm worried about the downstream impact. That said, I think disruptive innovation says the best place to deploy AI tutors are in areas of non-consumption where the alternative is nothing at all. So I would love to have an ESL teacher. I don't. So it's better than the alternative, nothing at all, but it's not better than the real thing. the last piece of it that I think AI is really cool with for in the hands of students is increasing agency and autonomy that you talked about earlier, Stuart, right? And so, yes, we don't want them relying on AI to do all the work, but the reality is all of workers in the future are going to be using AI to make their products and services that much better. And so I think our expectations for student work actually ought to come up as they start using AI tools to do things better. And I'll give a stupid example. You know, again, my class, I teach at the Graduate School of Education at Harvard. I've got 40 some odd students. Most of them are not from the United States. Several of them, you know, a few of them from China in particular struggle with the English language. What I say to them is like, please use AI because I want your papers that are coming into me to be well written. But I'm pretty confident AI is not going to come up with the insights and the thoughts that my assignment is asking you. That's your job. And so what I want you to do is use AI to make the product better so that you can better communicate your insights and ideas to me. So it's a tool to up-level the work, but not to like let them escape without getting the, you know, the point of the lesson, right? Or the point of the
And
assignment.
developing the
So,
knowledge behind, you know, the theoretical knowledge about what you're teaching as well.
exactly. They still need to produce that. And AI, I've tried it. AI is not good at doing that. But it can help them have a clean, well-argued, right, paper. And so I want them to use AI. I'm happy if they use AI, frankly, also to test their ideas. Like AI, like, you know, I was thinking this argument. Can you think of the 3 arguments that would defeat it? Right. Like I'm happy for them to use it so that they can really up level their understanding. I think A, it's going to happen, but B, I want to encourage it to happen because I want them to learn more through the process.
It was actually really interesting to hear you mention about Montessori, because my wife is a Montessori directress. She's written books on Montessori. She's a
No way.
Montessori expert. She's currently doing her master's in childhood education, and her dissertation is about bringing tablets into the Montessori space. So she might disrupt some things as well.
Wow.
So she's doing narrative research, so she's speaking to teachers about their feelings about it, and it's very polarized actually.
I would imagine so, because something I've learned, at least, and your wife can confirm or not, some teachers really understand the essence of Montessori around the mastery, self-paced, and the SEL components of it, right? Learning executive function, agency, etc., is built in with the learning. Some teachers I find are more wed to the materials and not the point, like not the spirit of the materials, if that makes sense. And so I could imagine that.
Yeah. So, well, I'll let you know the outcome of the.
Please do. Let's stay in touch on that one. Yeah.
Paul, one of our regular people, Paul. Yeah, he's. Well, I'll tell you a quick story. In April, I attended a conference for AI in language in Brighton. And the people at the conference, we kind of went away a little bit like excited about AI and like what it can do for us, but also thinking we might get replaced in the next 20 years. You know, the AI apparently, you know, can look at your work and really specialize, give you like specialized feedback, etc. Plan your route of learning to maximize your own skills. And we were a little bit frightened that we might get replaced. So Paul's asking, you know, is AI a threat to us? Will we potentially lose our jobs? Will so many English teachers be needed?
Yeah, it's a great question. My take is twofold. One, again, I think AI will be useful where the alternative is nothing at all, and it will get better over time. But my view is that technology will not replace teachers, but teachers who use technology well will replace teachers who don't use technology well. And so, right, it's a force multiplier.
Who's using?
Yeah, because the reality I think is that the AI maybe is going to be better at saying Michael needs to work at this particular thing. Here's 10 lessons, you know, blah 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 blah, to really personalize. But, you know, you all are going to be able to, be there to provide the effective supports to correct when there's mistakes in the AI, to redirect, to frankly provide the motivation and ultimately the purpose of the learning, which is not just the knowledge itself, but to use the knowledge in a context with other human beings. I think that's an important piece of all of this, right? Is that we're not just trying to use technology for its own sake. We're trying to use it to build something that can be usable. And if we're trying to teach kids English, it's so that they can communicate with other people. And so I don't think that the teacher goes away if that's the purpose. If the purpose is just to communicate low level, basic grammatical facts and skills, okay, sure. But I don't think that's the purpose of why we have ESL.
Yeah. That's such a cool point. Like teachers that are using technology well are going to replace the ones that don't. That actually leads me to another question I had thinking about. As far as training, so you mentioned one of the schools that you visited had this really like interesting method for blended learning and making these stations, everything. If a school isn't very supportive of technology coming into the space, how can teachers develop these skills if they're not being taught to? What kind of advice would you give them to kind of self-train?
Oh boy, that's a good question. And I think that's actually the state of the industry right now in many cases. I guess what I would say is one, at least in my experience, teachers kind of need to see it to believe it. And so finding online or finding schools near you that do learning very differently to stretch your mind about what is possible, I think is really important. I'll stay with the Montessori example since we share some of that. I think every teacher who has never been in a Montessori classroom ought to get up and find a way in the course of their next 6 months to just spend a day observing it, because I think they would be shocked by what kids are capable of in those environments. And a lot of times when they hear differentiated instruction, they're like, oh my God, that's so hard but their mental model is me at the front lecturing to kids. And if the moment you see it, it changes it, right? So it doesn't have to be Montessori, but I think Montessori is a great place to just quickly blow your mind of what a quote unquote classroom can look like. The second thing I think is I would find online spaces where you can experience that learning in your own professional development. So again, I'll give an example. Western Governors University in the United States educates roughly 225,000 students at this point. They have a school of education with, 50,000 teachers or something like that. It's a huge number. And it's a mastery-based or competency-based school. So there's no time. Students move on as they show mastery of concepts. And so you can graduate with a bachelor's in 18 months if you really move quickly, right? And we were interviewing recently one of the students who's teaching 4th grade. And I was like, how does this impact your teaching? And she's like, well, I want to create mastery-based environments now for my kids because I've seen how powerful it is for me. And I think if you've experienced it, these different kinds of modalities, and by the way, again, that's a fully technology-enabled learning model. So now you have an idea of mastery-based technology, personalization, and projects because their assessments are project-based. So all of a sudden you have a model of, how could I bring this in here? Because I've experienced the power of it. And so I think if you can, the second thing I would say is if you can find a way in your own professional development to learn using these tools and in these new models, I think it will really help you.
Yeah. So like perhaps like developing like your own professional network, going on LinkedIn, finding teachers that are actually doing this, collaborating, speaking to them, seeing if they can like record some of their lessons or whatnot.
Well, like communities like this one, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like you are among the bigger communities, but you're not the only one, right? Online that facilitates this sort of stuff. I think it's great. Like,
Mm.
let's see more teachers gathering in these spaces to take lessons from each other about what works and what doesn't and why.
Very cool. Yeah, very, very cool.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna check that out.
Thank you, Michael. It's almost an hour that you've been with us. I'd like to say thank you so much for your time on a Sunday. It's in China, and stew is about noon. Tea time beef.
Oh, tea?
Spots of tea, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm French. All right. Yes, you get an awesome book coming in coming up very soon, which is Jobs. Uh, Make sure out this book, Job Moves. When is it going to? I think it's around November 19th.
You are spot on. November 19th is the big day when it launches, but it's already available for pre-order wherever someone gets their books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your independent bookstore.
Great. And you have disruptive class with really, um, uh, I'm going to my wife for Christmas. I'm going to have a good gift. Yes, and don't forget as well to follow Michael. This is your website as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any, I don't know, suggestions to our ESL teachers? Would you like to?
Yeah. Well, number one, I've gotten to be in a lot of countries and seen a lot of ESL teachers over the years. Korea, Vietnam, Japan, other places. And I would say this community, right? An online community where you can plug in with each other and be supportive of each other, I think is really important because you all are doing something different from sometimes the rest of your school. So it's great that you have this resource. And then the second thing is I would just say, stay curious because we all have a lot to learn from each other. And I think if we're curious before we sort of defend our views, we learn a lot. I've already learned something today about how tablets might even make their way into Montessori classrooms. So there you go.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn more. But just thanks for what you're doing. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you for you as a thought leader about blended learning. Have anything else you want to say?
No,
Maybe
I just want to say thank you, Michael. Thanks for coming along. We know that you're really busy to give up some of your time. It's really helped us and the people watching this channel, giving people practical ideas about how to use tech, which is a really big stumbling block for a lot of teachers, and also some of the areas where we're going, and also the confidence that we aren't going to be replaced, and it's just a tool that we can use to make learning more engaging.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It's going to be time to say goodbye. Thanks again for your time. Maybe in another live stream, or it was very nice to accept today's little live stream. Was all good, all fun, from all the rest of our subscribers. Thank you to all of you in the chat. for asking question. Question, Kim. So we didn't let any people. I think everyone was listening. Thank you so much. See you soon. Then, Michael, to read your books.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
See you, Michael.
Appreciate you. See you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
See you soon. Cheers. That was really interesting. Thank you very much too, as well.
That was just so cool. You know, like someone of that caliber, you know, coming on the channel and talking to us about how we can use technology, like the different stations and stuff, and what you can do if you don't have that many tablets. You know, you don't have one for each student, which is really common. So helpful tips.
Great. Thank you again for your time as well. It's Sunday fun for sure. I'm going to be go to bed Sunday night. All right. Thank you, Stu. Hope to see you soon. Hope everything's doing good over there. TEFL Lemon courses is still, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got more trainees started this week. So super
Great.
excited.
Oh,
as well.
new
So,
trainees.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, got some new trainees. So if you're looking to get TESOL qualified, you want an accredited course, not like a fake course. Take the TEFL Lemon one. You get 30% off using that QR.
True. And of course, you will find in it blended learning as well, because you're a specialist in it.
Yeah, so we talk about blended learning at various stages in the course and how you can do it, real ideas. So if you're taking a TESOL course, you'll understand what blending is, you'll understand how to do it and what to do for different age groups as well. So it's a really good practical course. You'll finish the course a better teacher.
Right. Thank you for checking the live. I wanted to say thank you, of course, to Mrs. Hole. We have Paul, of course, and many others. Asshole, and of course, as well as the name. Don't get it. And then as well on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, everyone. Everyone was listening. Thank you for being here. The next week, obviously, we'll see. Weeks of blended learning. I guess we need to take a little break about blended. It's really a very important topic. Have any? I mean, subscribers. If you want things, you want to talk. Again, blended learning topics we can talk about with blended learning, that a live stream is never enough. Actually, with having Michael Horn with us today, I felt it was too short. Really, can't wait to meet him. Maybe going to his training. I don't know if it's still happening. It was really interesting and really thankful to Mike, and as well used to, because you guys scare me a little bit. Before 10 minutes before the live, nobody was
I know,
on, you know?
like that. Yeah, I was like, where's my laptop? What do I do with my laptop? Where's my charger? Why didn't I do this 1 hour ago?
That's always like that. We are teachers first, and then teachers first, and then for all techniques like live stream is not easy, but you know, if you find we did a good job as teacher on live stream like that, don't forget to give some likes, follows too as well on his YouTube channel, close to 6,000, right?
Yeah, it's getting there now. Yeah, just getting there now. If anyone's watching this and you're not subscribing to TEFL Lemon on YouTube, please do so. Yeah, I really need your support.
Yes. Thank you, Stu, and we'll see everyone another day. Well, it's going to be Sunday night, 9 p.m. Beijing time, and it's going to be next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Stu.
Cool. No worries. See you
Cheers.
later. See you. Bye.
See you guys.
Mike and Stu are here to lead the way, blending knowledge with tech today. And with Michael B. Horn, we're reaching new heights, our expert guide on these learning lights. Blended learning, flexible and free, personalized paths for you and me. Thanks to Michael guiding the way, classrooms evolve each and every day. Stu and Mike bring the energy strong, but Michael's wisdom leads us along. With blended learning, students thrive, engaged and active minds come alive. Blended learning, flexible and free, personalized paths for you and me. Thanks to Michael guiding the way, classrooms evolve each and every day.